Okay, hello everyone. Kudos to everyone who has come. As you can see, we are unfortunately we have a lot less people than last session for whatever reason, maybe typical drop-off rate. But today we're going to be going through. I believe is this the right session? Let me just check if this is the right one. Yeah, it is. Okay, yeah. So it's going to be some more. It's not really review. You may know this if you've done Python before, but objects and classes, which is something you would have done if you did Python outside of School Ignite. But if you've only done the beginner session, then this might be new for you. And we'll do basically more Pygame stuff, and we'll get into like a template for a game. You might decide to you might decide to deviate from this. So I wouldn't necessarily assume that this game template is what you'll use, but it will be some game design, regardless of whether it's what you end up doing for your final project. And like, once again, you should be in the Discord if you haven't already joined it. And you can also join your group. So once again, you would type exclamation mark group set, and then you type the day, which is Wednesday, and then your dash followed by your group number, or you can just find your mentor's Discord. Okay, so I'm going to go over this pretty quickly as well, because I think the best way to work with things is just to go and like build stuff. So first of all, you have objects, which are everything in Python is actually an object. So like lists, integers, everything, basically everything. And I think in our case, we're talking more like objects that we make up, which you would use the class function to determine. So like you're making a snake object. And it's really just for making your code like easier to use, right? So if you didn't have like a list object, which is pretty fundamental, it would be really hard to do things in Python. But anyways, all when I talk about objects, I'll be talking mostly about like the objects that we make. But just keep in mind everything in Python, pretty much everything like lists, dictionaries, tuples, integers, floats, like those are all technically objects. Well, they are objects, and so usually when you create objects, you define like a class for them, which determines like what properties the object will have. So usually you're going to have what are called the methods, and you're going to have the attributes. So methods are functions, but within an object, and your attributes are variables, but within an object. And so you might have like person here. Whoa. Let's try and type code. Boom. So in this example here, you might have like your person class. You would indicate that you're creating a type of object, like the blueprint for a type of object with the class keyword. You'll use more of that later. And you would type something like whatever, value. What is value? These are such obscure things. But basically you would give it attributes. Like we'll go more into the specifics later, but you could be like the age. You would have an age attribute, which is like, once again, the variable, but within the object, you would have a name, blah. And then whenever you create a person, well, I should probably just move to the next slide. I'm sure there's better examples. Let's just go to the next. Yes. So yeah. Right. So back to the attributes example, each object's going to have like different attributes that are different for each object, right? So different rectangles have different widths and heights, and you can actually access them using the dot operator. So it's like pretty intuitive, but if you want to find the x-coordinate for your rect one, which is a Pygame rect object, then you would just you can also set them, right? You can both access them and you can also change them. And once again, I kind of went over this already, but if you want to access parts of an object, you're going to use the DAW operator. And like I think the best way to see how all this works is just going to be to do our exercise. So what you're going to do is you're going to download this guy over here. You just click on it. Usually I would copy and paste the whole thing. Um, this one, you click on it, copy and paste the whole thing, and then do copy and paste this one as well. And you want to put them into the same folder. So you want to create some folder and put both of them in. And then you want to open that folder in VS Code so that basically in this main file, we are going to be calling this pre-built leaves function from another Python file. So like we're going to import the leaves, a function from this leaves.py file. So that's why we have both of them. And it's mainly like an organization thing, as you'll see. And so y'all can start like setting this up right now. We will go into breakout rooms for it. But the thing that you want is right now the tree function just spawns like empty. It just spawns branches. Or not branches, sorry. I believe it just spawns trunks. No? Wait a second. Okay, we'll figure it out in the breakout rooms. But your goal is to add leaves to the trunks. Okay, I mean, I think the trunks are already, yeah, the trunks are already spawned. There are already trunks on your screen, and you want to use this leaves function, create leaf objects that add leaves to the trees. So yeah, good luck. Yes. Right. Yeah, we're gonna talk about classes. So I guess this could be like an intro. You can think of it as like an example-based thing. And then next, yeah, so what I mentioned about like everything in Python being an object, I guess you could think of it. The distinction to make is that the class is like the general concept. So I guess integers would be a class, but a specific integer like 1 or 2, those are objects within the class of integers. And so I guess in Python, what we're mostly going to be dealing with is things that objects we create. Well, I mean, you'll always be using the built-in functions, like built-in classes, but we'll like a lot of what we'll be focusing on is these classes that you're going to create. So if you create a snake class, you could have like Bob the snake or Rob the snake. Very creative names. But anyways, and each of these snakes has like different properties that are unique to itself. I believe the official term for these properties is called attributes. Those are the variables, and once again, the functions are going to be called methods. That's the terminology I'll use, and probably what you'll see in other places. Hopefully y'all have seen a class before. If you haven't seen a class, I mean, you saw one in the leaves.py file, but there's going to be a few important parts. Your first thing is your init function over here. And this function, and you'll know it's anything with like a double underscore on the left and right side is, it has like it runs at a very specific instance. So in this case, your init function will always run when an object is created. And so if there's a few other objects examples are, you could have like by the way, usually people don't use these, but you could define an add function, right? So it's like, oh, you can't just add like, let's say you have dogs or, no, what's a good example? You have, yeah, okay, fine. This is actually a bad example, but let's just say this is your dog class and you want to have a way to define the addition of two dogs. Like, how do you define an addition of two dogs? Well, you could, the smart way to probably do it is you could have like, whenever you have two dogs, you could just say like, you're just counting the number of dogs, okay? But maybe like a more practical example is like, what's a more practical example? Okay, fine. Let's say you have like polka dots on like a leopard or something, and you have this is okay. I'm trying to think of a good example here. Good example. What's a good example? Okay. Now I can't think of anything specific right now, but these all the double underscore functions they're called like in specific instances. So if you had like a add function here, you would basically, if you created a dog object called d equals dog, d dog1 equals dog, and you had dog2 equals dog. Normally, if you try dog1 plus dog2, it will just give you an error because Python's like, what am I supposed to add? But you could just say that my add function is actually to say like self dot. Well, you would run a return value. So, and actually, you can actually do anything. You could even say print 2 dogs had been added. You know, like you could do whatever you wanted in this function. But usually, you would return a value. So you could say you could return some random number. Maybe you could return dog. Self.licks plus. Well, actually, you would have the other. But anyways, that's not too relevant. I think the whole point is that the double underscore methods are just they're run at a very specific when something specific happens to the objects. In this case, your add function runs when 2 objects are added, right? You're defining it. Your initiate function runs when an object is created. Your delete function runs when like an object is deleted. So maybe in your delete function, you're like, oh, print object has been defeated or something. So they're all specific. And okay, right? Oops. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Where are we? No, that's not the. Is this the right place? Okay. Sorry. Yes. Right, so we've talked about that. And the init construction, usually what we put in this init function is you define like all the class variables, because like especially when the object is first created, you want to define a bunch of things. Now I haven't tried this. You can try this on your own, but I'm pretty sure you can actually have any function, and you can define new variables. Like you could have, I don't know, I is equal to. I'm pretty sure this works. I haven't actually tried it, but you should probably be able to define like new variables for a class anywhere. I could be wrong though. So to be safe, you generally want to like come up with all the variables that you want to use while you're in your init function. And the variables, well, they're going to be called properties, or I call them attributes. I believe that is the official term, but it's not too big of a deal what you call them because you generally don't really need to know that. So you could call them like class variables or properties or attributes, whatever, same thing. And so in the initiation function, you'll pass in a bunch of parameters. And so let's go back down. So like when you see, here's an example of creating an object. So each of these, let's just copy paste this. Each of these arguments is actually passed in to up to here, right? So this is, so when we create this Jimmy object, we'll have your name as Jimmy, age at 17, and the gender here. And so this self keyword it's kind of like a placeholder. You always put it in the, so what it does when you put, by the way, it actually doesn't matter what you call it, but by convention, everyone uses the word self. You could say like, as long as this self word, whatever is used by, whenever you see the self word, technically, if you did like a find and you replaced every single instance of self with a different word, you would still get the same result. So it's more of a placeholder thing, but everyone uses self. That's convention. And how it works is it acts as like a way for you to access the individual variables in an object. So like the way you can think of it is like a placeholder for the word my, right? So self.name is saying like the name of this object that's being created. And so the reason this self keyword here at the in the arguments as of the init allows the function to access the class variables. We'll see more examples later. But like when you define new functions, you also want to have this self keyword if you want it to be able to access these guys. Otherwise, if you have a function without the self keyword, it won't be able to use this like self.name or self.whatever. You won't be able to access the object variables, which is pretty useless usually. Okay. And when you are accessing a variable for a specific object, you would write the not variable. Sorry, and when you're accessing the variable for an object, you write the object's name using and then followed by dot for whatever variable you want to access. And yeah, you don't pass self as an argument. It's the way to think of it is it's more of an like inside thing. It's like internal. And now, yes. What else? I should probably specify also whatever. It's actually whatever variable that you pass first is taking. Like init always expects the self keyword to be first. So like if you put like person name first, as I can't edit this code. If you like put person underscore name instead of self, then you would have to replace all of these with person underscore name if you still want the code to work, so to speak. Otherwise, yeah. With that, quick question. Should be pretty easy. Go to Top Hat and figure it out. Oh yeah, and about the exercise, if you didn't get a chance to finish it, you can do it in the next breakout room, and it's basically just ask your mentor if you get stuck. Anyways, we should be doing the Top Hat thing right now. Jahan, are you setting that up, or am I supposed to?
It is open right now. Some people are entering right now.
Okay. I guess you can screen share as well.
Okay.
So yeah, link to the slides is here. Oops.
If you weren't here for the first session, we do post the recordings on YouTube. So you can search up Sugar Ignite and then you'll see.
Perfect. Yes, yes. Self must be your first keyword. Okay. So yeah, this guy over here, got to be at the beginning, and we will not go into the specifics of messing around with the self keyword. I think there's a few things that happen or not happen, but you can experiment on your own if you're curious, like how it works. I actually don't remember exactly what happens if you try and like, let's see. Actually, no. It's always just this value here. So anything that if you did like, if eye color was here, then eye color dot blah. This is like your only real. It's like your only real variable, and these would either throw an error or yeah, I believe they would just throw an error, or it would just be inaccessible. And next we are going to build a class, and yeah, so convention you use uppercase for all of your words within the class. So you'd be like snake, cool snake or something. Oh no, what's this arrow?
Ryan,
Oh,
do you mind sharing your screen?
right. Okay. Right. Yes. So okay. Yeah, so upper class names. Okay, you're gonna do that, and then you're gonna decide, okay, what sorts of attributes do I want my class to have, and do I want it to do anything? So you could have it print, you know? Okay. Then you can also have your then after you define the initiation function, we will create an object, and yeah, that's about it for now. And then you can also access the objects with the dot operator as mentioned before. So yeah, that's just an example. You can follow along if you want, but we are moving on to our next quick question. And so the question is, what happens? So remember as we went, I guess I might as well say this. So yeah, when you create the person, it will run the initiation function. Boom. And once again, I sent the slides in chat, so you should be able to access those on your own. Oh dear. Pew. Tab color. Streams. La la la. La 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 la. Huh. Okay, I'm actually gonna rejoin this meet. So my computer is buggy. Okay, I'm back. Yes. Answer. Wait a second. Is this thing not done yet? Oh. Okay. There you go. Yes. There are no syntax errors. I don't. How many people answer correctly? 92% out of. Oh, I can't even see the thing. Okay. Oh, I have to open the slide link again. Yay. But yes, the word George is printed because first we create the dot name attributes for the person class, and we say George, and then we print that. So pretty simple. Okay. What next? Yay. Yeah. All right. So I'm sharing correct. Yay. So you can also have objects within objects, which you can be useful in the case of like, yeah, this is like a very, very literal example where you just have like, you got like the spacecraft where you have a rover in it, and then actually that's not how it works. Yes. You were gonna ignore all the details, but basically imagine it's a simple thing. You have a rocket ship, you have a rover in the rocket ship. You land the rocket ship on rocket ship's an object, right? And within your rocket ship object, you have a rover. So yeah, and in a sense of like a Python sense, you can have like rectangles useful for like bounding box and or not bounding box, sorry, collision detection and like animating, like just determining the position, keep track of the position. You might have like a if you have a player class or player objects, could have like a gun object, so called within the player object. Um, so it's more of like a reference, really. It's like your if you assign like sub.rect to pygame.rect, the the pygame rectangle technically it exists outside of the snake object, and I think a better example is if you had like a um, let's say a gun object, right? Like even if you delete the player um, object, the gun still exists. The gun object still exists. Okay, but that's not too relevant. Um, unless you actually end up like having a case where you're like, oh, I want to delete this player, but oh, the gun object is still like, you don't want a floating gun in the place of that. But you'll figure it out if you encounter it, right? So in this case, if you wanted to access the rect object of the snake, you would go mysnake.rect, and then you could even access more properties within the rectangle. So it's like the whole boxes within boxes thing we talked about in the last section. And next we have imports, which are Python pygame is an import, but imports are okay. Simple version is basically you're getting access to code from another file. So every library that we import, so we're talking like pygame or random import random, right? Pandas or like whatever else you've used before. Those are actually just like big Python files with a bunch of pre-built functions, and um, usually you will import like definitely I shouldn't say usually, but you can either choose to import like a specific class or function, or you can just import the whole thing. And if you import the whole thing, then you'll have to use uh, the name of the file first. And do be careful of importing like functions or class, especially if you sorry no yeah if you import a class or a function directly, just be careful of like naming conflicts between whatever you've imported, like whatever function you've imported and functions you already defined. But if you don't if you just import like another module, for example, then you would just do whenever you want to access something like a function within it, you would have to say dot snake. So you'd have to use another module first. And that's why we use like pygame.blah. Okay. Okay. And we did that with the leaves.py file. So you do input all imports at the beginning of your file. Here's the example, kind of as I mentioned earlier. If you don't specify importing the specific class from the snake file, then you're just going to have to specify like, this is the snake.snake, not your just regular snake, right? Okay. Built-in imports are usually the most useful ones, but if you write bigger files, it's nice to have just for context. I usually like to it is kind of person dependent what you want to import or not. But you might have like a map.py file. So different aspects of your game, you might have like enemies.py, so enemy behavior. Maybe you'd have like items.py, and it's just however you want to organize things. Because obviously you will use classes to put everything in the same to keep things like organized to begin with. But sometimes if your classes are like big, you might want to move them into other files. But I would say it's more so a personal preference thing, unless your file is like really big. Then then you really want to start using other files. But I think for anything that we're making, it's more so up to you if you want to use other files or not, because you can just make sure you like put everything in separate classes, and that should work. Okay, and yeah, so the rest of our session, we have a good 30 minutes just to build. And it's really just going to be like, familiarizing yourself with Pygame. If you finish early, then you can, there's a couple bonus challenges, and you really just like experiment, because that's where you're going to learn the most. And also like you have your mentors to ask if you're like experimenting, you're like, why does this happen? Okay, so what we're going to do is in the first session, we made rectangles, right? And also the submission link should work now. Is this the one? Yay, it works. Yes. So basically you click on this link, and to submit your exercises, this might be the old one. It's not 100% updated. No, it's not. But yes, okay, let me quickly check. Screwignites.com. I'll replace it real quick. Okay, so usually you go here, you go to student links, submit flare. Is it updated? It should be updated, correct. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, this is gonna be the link. I will quickly replace the links. We just have to update these. No biggie, no big deal. And okay, we'll upgrade that link too. Yeah, so anyways, I'll send the submission link in the chat, but you should also be able to find it. And yeah, let's go into your breakout rooms. And basically what you want to do is, you created a rectangle in the first session, and you also made it move around. So now it's like, okay, how about we make some rectangles, a bunch of rectangles, and have them move to the left. And you can have as many as you want. Really, I would say you can just do one, and if you want to create multiple, I would suggest using a for loop of some sort. And yeah, good luck. Go ask your mentors if you are like struggling with something for more than a few minutes. Save yourself some time. Yeah. Also, if you're in Eric's room, he has joined us, so you can now go and join his room if you were originally with him as your mentor. Hey, what are we doing? Also, okay, do we need to fix the breakout rooms? Oh, they're already in progress? Okay. Off we go. Mm. What? Oh, it is F22. What is it? Oh. Oops. Ah.
Yeah, if you are with Aditya or me, you can join the other. Aditya is not here.